What's going on, guys? Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to VsCode. In this video, you're going to learn how to use ChatGPT, which is an AI chatbot developed by OpenAI, to build a Discord bot. The idea is that within Discord, we want to be able to say /AI and then ask anything. Then what we want to do is to take the message and use OpenAI API so that we can take advantage of the ChatGPT model. This video is brought to you by Abs. Abs has recently joined VsCode, and more on it later. So we are cooking something together which is going to be amazing, so stay tuned for that. And I'm going to leave a link where you can follow Abs on LinkedIn. And if you're new to this channel, literally just take 1 second and subscribe. Also smash the like button and comment down below and let me know what other type of content that you want to see next. Without further ado, let's crack on. The first thing that I want you to do is within Discord, go ahead and create a server if you don't have one. If you have one, then you'll be absolutely fine. If not, just sign up and get yourself a server, because on the next section, we'll start off with the server itself. Cool, this is pretty much everything from me. Now, let me give it to Abs.
So once you're here, let's go ahead and create a new server. So click on this plus button. Go ahead and create my own server. Let's call this server ChatGPT AI and click create. So once you've done that, go ahead and go to the developer portal. Once you're here, go ahead and create a new application. And let's call this ChatGPT Bot AI. Click on the terms and conditions and click create. So once you're here, go ahead to the bot screen and create a bot from there. So again, once this bot has been created, we can now give it some permissions. So if we head over to OAuth 2 and click on URL generator, we know that the scope is a bot. So let's select that and give it administrator permissions. We can give it some lower level permissions depending on what permissions you need for your server. So go ahead and select the permissions you need. And this will generate a URL. Make sure you save this URL somewhere safe, as we'll be using this in a moment. Next, let's head over to the general screen. In this screen, under default authorization link, we are going to select custom URL and paste the URL we just created. Let's paste that. Notice how in the URL you have your client ID, permissions, and scope. Scope is bot. Let's go ahead and save changes. Once you've done that, go back to the bot screen. Let's go ahead and click on message content intent. The reason we are going to select this is because we want the bot to receive and reply to messages. So let's go ahead and click and save changes. Now scroll all the way to the top and let's reset our token. This is going to be your API token, so make sure you copy this and store it somewhere safe. Now let's get back the link we've previously copied and open a new tab and paste that link. So what you'll see is now the bot is asking permissions and to be added to a server. So let's add it to our server that we just created, ChatGPT AI, continue, and we did give it administrator permissions, so let's keep that as it is and authorize. And we can close the tab. Now notice if I go back to our Discord page, you'll see that the bot has just joined the channel we've just created. So now let's go ahead and create our Discord bot application. Go ahead and open up the terminal. So let's begin by creating a new directory for our code. Let's first go into desktop and let's make a directory called my AI bot. Let's cd into my AI bot and let's open our code editor. Okay, so your app directory will look something like this. You will have the app folder. You will also have the .env, requirements.txt, and run.py. The .env will contain the values for Discord token and our ChatGPT API key. So let's go ahead and add that. Right, so to be able to do this project, You will also need a requirements.txt file containing the libraries we are going to use. In this case, we are using 4 libraries: the discord.py library, the OpenAI library, the python.env library, and the request library. So let's go ahead and install these libraries. Let's go back to the terminal. Now, to install Python libraries requirements.txt file, we need the command pip install -r requirements.txt file. And that's done. Now let's go back to our VsCode. This has now been installed. Next, we are also going to save our .env file, and we can also create some subdirectories within the app directory. Let's call the first one Discord _bot, and the second one we can call ChatGPT AI. Within these 2 directories, we can place our Python files. So in the Discord bot, we have a Discord API.py, and in the ChatGPT, we have an __init.py file. I'll explain what this init.py file does in a moment, as well as an OpenAI.py. We will also have an init file in the app level directory. This init file is used to mark a directory as a Python package, which means we can import these packages in parts of our code. Also note that this init file can be empty, since we only use it for the purpose of marking a directory as a package, but we have nothing to initialize in this case. Right, so now we can code. Okay, so let's first begin by writing some code to interact with the Discord API. The first thing we need to do is import our libraries. So we are importing from .env, and we're importing the load.env package. We are also going to import the Discord library. This is so that we can interact with the Discord API, and we are importing the OS library so that we can interact with the operating system. With the load.env library, we can import our environment variables, which are placed within the .env file. To do that, we just do load _.env, and we're calling this function. Next, we can set a variable for the Discord token. So Discord _token is equal to, and obviously now we want to interact with the operating system to get the environment variable. So we do os.getEnv, and in brackets we have the environment variable Discord token. Next, we are going to define our class object. Our class object will contain 2 methods. The first method, an onReady method. This method applies to the bot logging in. So when we run the application, it will give us a message saying that the bot has logged in. So to do that, we define a myClient class. So myClient, and this is a subclass of Discord.client. So let's define our first method, which is going to be an onReady method, and we print. So we print in the command line successfully logged in. Let's say successfully logged in as, and then we can say self.user, suggesting that this is the bot that has just logged in. And that's it. That's for the first method. For the second method, it is for our messages. So we're going to say on message, and we want to take in. So this on message event will be triggered when message is read by the client. So what we want is to print the message that has been received in the command line. So we write print message dot content. So this prints the content of the message to the console. So it checks if the message was sent by the client itself. Now, when this happens, we don't want the Discord bot replying to itself. So if the Discord bot reads its own message, we want to prevent the bot itself replying to its own message. To do that, we are going to write a little if statement. So if message.author is equal to self.user, then what happens? We want nothing to happen, so we just return. So for the next part, we need to check the user's message to contain a specific command. This command will call the bot, and from this we can also save their message as a variable. So for the next part, we need to set two empty variables. We need to set command and user message. These two variables for now can be empty, so we will say none and none. Now the next part is the important bit. We need to write a for loop, checking if a given message starts with any of the specified commands. So for example, we want the bot to be called only when there's /AI. So to do this, what we do is for text in, and then we write in a list format a set of strings. So these strings will be the command part of the user's message. So what we're going to do is, if the message contains any of these strings, so if message.content starts with, and then obviously this is going to be text, we want to set these two variables and then print those two variables, the two variables being command and user message. So we set command to be equal to message.content, and obviously to be able to do this, we need to split the message. The way it's done is we use the dot split feature, and in brackets we have this, and then obviously we want to apply this to only the first word in the message, index 0. Next, we do the same thing for the user message. So user_message dot replace, and then we want to replace the command part of the message. So we say text and we put a empty string. Finally, we print these two variables. Now, as you can see, we are getting an error message saying that the message is not defined. That's because our for loop is actually outside of the bounds of our method. Now that we split the user's message into two parts, into command and user message, we want something to happen when that command is called. And let's say if command is any one of those strings, so if command is equal to, then from this point we set another variable and we are going to say bot response. Now for this, it is going to be the response of a function. So this function has not yet been defined, but we will define this function in the ChatGPT part of our code. So the response of this function will take in a prompt value, and the prompt value, of course, will be the user's message, which we have now split into an actual message. So user_message. So now that we've set this variable, we want the code to execute, and we want the bot to reply to the message. But for us to do that, we want the code only to execute when the user has sent the message and the message has completely sent. So we say await message.channel.send, and then we are going to place an F string, and we are going to say answer, and then the bot's response. Now, if you remember earlier on in the video, we set the message intent on Discord to be true. So now what we need to do is the same thing here. We write intents, so we set a variable, and then we do Discord.intent, which is the feature of the Discord library, .default, and then we call this. And then we also say that intents.message_content is equal to true. And then finally, we create an instance of this class. And that's it for this code. So notice how there's only one thing that we haven't defined, which is the ChatGPT response. Now this ChatGPT response will be a function in our ChatGPT AI. So let's go over to our OpenAI.py and let's continue coding there. Okay, so we can first begin by importing the same libraries as we did in our Discord API Python file. But for this Python file, instead of importing the Discord library, we are going to import the OpenAI library. We can get the key of this API key from the .env file, which is going to be ChatGPT API key. And now we can begin writing our function. So we called the function ChatGPT underscore response. We want this function to take a prompt from the user. Now, for the next part, we want to create an API request using the OpenAI library. To do this, we use response is equal to, and then obviously in brackets, this is where we define all the details. So we can head over to the API documentation to get our request body for this response API request. So let's head over to the OpenAI API documentation. Now, once you're on this page, we are going to making requests. The request body contains model, prompt, temperature, and max tokens. So we are going to use those exact same things. And for the purpose of this tutorial, we are also going to use the Text DaVinci 003 model. So let's copy that and let's type in all the other details. So model, we said it was equal to the prompt we're taking in this function. Temperature, we can set that to 1, and the max tokens we can set to 100. And that's it for this function. This function is essentially making an API request to OpenAI, and this API request depends on the prompt given in this function. Let's also close this. Now, the response given from this API request will actually be a JSON body. So we need to extract the actual response, the actual text response given by ChatGPT. So if we go back to the documentation, we see that the response given is in the form of a JSON body. So what we need to extract is, under choices, is text. So we need to write some code to make sure that this has an actual value. So there's something inside this text key, and we also need to extract the contents of this value. So to do that, we are going to use this dictionary of keys, and we are going to extract choices. We are going to extract choices, and from within choices, we are going to extract the first element, which is text. So the first thing we need to write is the response dictionary, which we set to this variable, and then we say response.get, and we want the choice key, right? So we type in choice here. If the response dictionary and the length of the response dictionary is greater than 0, then what we do is set the prompt response, so the response given by the AI, as being equal to the response dictionary and then the first element of choice, right? And then we set this to the values for text. And finally, we are going to return this prompt response. So that's it for this part of the code. So we can go ahead and save this and go back to the Discord API and also save this. Now, notice how this is still undefined. That's because we still haven't imported the package for ChatGPT, and this is where the init.py file comes in handy. So to do that, we go ahead to the top, and over here we are going to say from app, because that's where app is. Then we say ChatGPT AI, because that's the folder we need, and we are going to extract the OpenAI file, and then from there we are going to import the function that we just created, which is the ChatGPT response function. And now if we scroll down, we can see that this has now been imported successfully. Now if we go back to our OpenAI Python file, it says we are getting an error somewhere. We notice that this has no comma, so we put a comma there, and there you have it. And now for testing the functionality, we go to our run.py file, and then because we are running two sets of Python files, that's the reason we are using run.py on an outer level directory. So to do that, we need to import, once again, our packages. Then we have our guard statement. So we are going to say if underscore name is equal to main, then we want to run our class object, client.run, and then we pass in the Discord token since that's the value it takes in. So we save this. Now, just to explain what this guard statement does is that it checks whether the code is being run as the main program or if it's being imported as a module. Now, it's a way to ensure that the code only runs when the script is called directly and not when imported as a module into another script. And that's all. That's all you need to do. So now what we can do is actually run our file. We can just press the play button. Now notice it hasn't worked. The reason it hasn't worked is because we haven't imported our token. So if we go to our .env file, we need to import both the Discord token and the ChatGPT API key. So let's go ahead and get our ChatGPT API key from there. Once you're logged in, click on the top right icon which says personal and click on view API keys. Now in this section, we are going to create a new API key. So create new secret key. And let's copy that over. And now let's go back to our code and save that here. Now we also need our Discord token. Now if you recall in the first part of this video, we saved that somewhere. So let's go ahead and grab that Discord token. Okay, and now we can try again and run our code. Now notice this is now running. It's created a session ID, and what do we have? It's successfully logged in as the name of the ChatGPT bot. So now if we go back to our Discord, we can now see that the bot is online. So we can actually give the bot a message. Okay, now as you can see, it's taken a while and we still haven't got a response, which means the error is most likely to do with our code. So if we go back to our code and we see what the error message is in the console, we're told that the local variable prompt response is being referenced before assignment. So if we go to prompt response, the response.get is actually choices and not choice. Let's save our changes and let's try that again. Okay, now let's go back to our Discord and try that again. Now let's try prompting the AI with a message. So let's say, and if you give it a few seconds, the bot comes back with a response. And there you have it. There's your bash script. Now obviously it doesn't complete the code because we only gave 100 tokens. Now you can increase or decrease this token depending on which account you're using. If you're using an enterprise account or an organization account, then it makes sense to increase the amount of tokens. But in this case, this is just for a test and we're okay with just using 100 tokens. And there you have it, folks, a ChatGPT Discord bot created using Python.
And if you're new to this channel, literally just take 1 second and subscribe. Also smash the like button and comment down below and let me know what other type of content that you want to see next. Without further ado, let's crack on.